That's a posh background. You're going for the old bloody, what do you call it, depth of field effect.
Yeah, because this is like my kid's playroom on a weekend and my sort of office during the week. So I didn't know if you'd want to see your times tables. Maybe everyone would. Maybe it would help everyone.
Yeah, I could certainly be doing with it. How's things, man? Everything all right?
Yeah, just mega busy, man. I feel like with work and stuff with the kids and the trip coming up. I'm just like every day back to back. But it's good. It means I've got a lot going on, which is what you're supposed to do, right? Don't want to live a boring life.
Oh, I bet. I love that feeling when you're, of anticipation when you've got like a big trip on the horizon. I love it. I've really missed it over the whole lockdown and everything like that.
Yeah. How are you getting on?
Yeah, all good, man. Yeah, good. It's busy now. It's really picked up now. I've been testing a lot of bikes recently. I'm away a week today, actually, or a week tomorrow. I'm heading off on a bit of a road trip with Canary Moto Tours down in Slovenia. Mm-hmm. So we're doing a tour down to Hungary and Romania. So I have to ride down and meet them at Slovenia and then do that. And then I have a bit of a road trip of my own after that. And then I'm going up to the TT, so I'll be across for race week, and then it's just busy for June basically. So yeah, looking forward to it.
That'll be awesome.
Editing like crazy at the moment, trying to get enough content to build up, and yeah, I'm one or two vids short at the moment, so I might have to edit while I'm away.
The the last Slovenia one was so jealous. I've wanted to go there for so long, but I've got some guys who I work with in Romania, and when you're at work, it always turns into like bike chat, and they say some of the roads over there, like there's some cracking roads, like the Transfer Garrison, there's like another big one, but also a load of like the dirt roads and stuff because they're not well maintained everywhere. So you've got a lot of good roads in front of you, I'm sure, with those guys.
I was amazed at how good like the tarmac roads were. Because the last time I did it, I was on my Gixxer, and it's a road around the world, did I tell you about that? They were phenomenal. They were like really beautiful, almost alpine, twisty roads down out the mountains. I was like, this is nuts. So I'm looking forward to it. Mate, are you happy for us just to get straight into it, or do you want to have a chat first?
No, let's do it, man. Yeah, let's just go for it.
Cool. Well, folks, you've been listening to all that anyway. So obviously, this is Gordon Stuart, the Arctic Rider. You're back on again, mate.
Thanks for having me back.
My pleasure. I mean, you have an epic trip ahead of you very soon, but just for those who maybe didn't hear the last one or don't know anything about you, can I just ask you to introduce yourself a little bit? Tell us a wee bit about yourself.
Absolutely. So, yeah, Gordon Stuart, also known as the Arctic Rider.
Sorry, mate. Very rude of me. Beers.
Drinking time.
Do you have a tipple of choice?
So, what? Right. I've got a Coke today because... Okay. I've got to work after this, and I've got I work with some people on the West Coast of America, so I want to make sure I'm not how many beers down. I don't think I would go down very well. So
fair enough. Well, I hope you don't mind, because I'm going to crack the top off. Cheers to your health.
To you and to all of you listening and watching.
And look, I'm on something new. Bio Moretti. I've finished my Brewdog. Believe it or not, I've finished my Brewdog. So Brewdog, if you're watching, I'm out of beer. Brew time, Brewdog. I grew up near you. Come on. Anyway, sorry, mate. Over to you.
Absolutely. Yeah, so the Arctic Rider, over the last, nearly 11 years now, I've been doing different motorbike rides to raise money for charity. My current sort of mission, which I established a couple of years ago now, is to try and cross the Arctic Circle in every country possible by motorbike. So there's 8 to complete. And I'm getting through them now. So I've already done Norway and Iceland. And next on the list in just 3 weeks or so is United States and Alaska. But so far we've raised, and I say we because I've had so many generous donations over the years, over £15,000 for different charities who mean a lot to me. Awesome. And yeah, I just want to keep going. So every couple of years I'm coming up with different ideas, different rides, and trying to get through these Arctic ones, hopefully. Maybe by the time I retire, and then I can go somewhere a little bit warmer as a treat. Yeah,
do the equator next. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot here then, Gordon. What are the countries? What are the 8 countries?
Yeah, so there's Iceland, Norway, Sweden, Finland. There's Russia. There's United States. There's Canada, and then there's Greenland, technically part of Denmark. So they're the 8 to do. And I wish when I was up in Norway, I'd had this grand idea, because when I did that trip in 2014, I hadn't thought about it, because I could have probably easily ticked off Sweden and Finland. But anyway, It's another trip for me to go and do. But I think I had an order that I thought about them in, and it changes all the time depending on the geopolitical situations and COVID and things. But Russia now is going to be, who on earth knows when I'm going to get back into Russia?
Because
it could be a tricky one. So that was going to be the next one. That was meant to be 2020's one, but COVID got in the way. And then with everything that's going on, so that's why Alaska came back into view. And I always thought Greenland would be the last one, which is going to be tricky because it might end up being a snowmobile if I can't work it out. But I'll work through it, whatever. But that might be, before Russia. Who knows? We'll see where we get to.
Are there any roads on Greenland?
So only between the towns. As in the town, but you can go, there's like tracks, like snow tracks that you can go through. And I've heard about people doing like cycling, but I know there's definitely snowmobile. So I need to, when I get closer to that one, which are probably the last or second last, I'm going to explore how I'm going to do it. But either way, I'll, in some sort of like 2 or 3 wheel venture, I'll get myself across the snow and ice of Greenland.
Mate, Greenland is just, what an epic trip that would be. I remember in my naive days when I was first planning my route for the world trip, I was like, Greenland, I'll do that. Iceland, I'll do, you just tick them off. Yeah, no problem. And then when you actually start looking into it, it's like, shit, how am I actually going to get my bike there? And there aren't any roads. I think, as you said, it's a bit like Mongolia, There's a wee bit of tarmac or firm dirt for the towns, and then it's nothing, is it, after that? And it's a huge landmass.
I'm wondering though, by the time I get there, because this is a lifetime ambition, global warming might have kicked in enough that so much of it have melted. There might be some roads to ride. I never know.
It might be a real Greenland, very green. Yeah. Cool. Right. Okay then. So let's go with the next trip then. The next adventure, Alaska. What you doing, and when do you go?
Yeah, so I go in like 3.5 weeks, which has come all of a sudden. I was meant to go back in 2018. I had it all planned out. Suzuki had kindly given me a bike to do it on. And I had a bunch of, I think I mentioned this last time, GDPR, this whole European data compliance thing. Basically, I couldn't get the bike insured, and I ended up going to Iceland. So I've had the idea of Alaska for a while, but it was just this sort of winter when the sort of nights were dark and I was feeling a bit depressed about not doing enough biking. I just decided I was going to go and book my bike rental. That's the first thing I did with a company called MotoQuest. And then I booked my flights over to Anchorage. So I fly to Anchorage, which is in the south of Alaska, with the only sort of, real major kind of city. And then I've got 7 days riding, which is just over 2,000 miles to get right up to the top of Alaska, up the Dalton Highway. If anyone's heard of that before, if you've watched Ice Road Truckers, or plenty of videos on YouTube, which is 800 miles there and back of dirt road gravel. It's part of that 2,000. And I'm actually going to be renting a Beamer. So I've got a 750 GS booked up, my first time on a BMW as well. So super looking forward to it, but it's a bit different to what I've done before. I've never done a fly and ride sort of thing. I've always had my own bike, and getting my kit over there is going to be a challenge, but also the wilderness up there, it really is kind of like the back and beyond in terms of the towns that are there, the lack of kind of campsites, the lack of amenities. I think there's a 300-mile stretch on the Dalton with no nothing. You just got to keep going. Yeah. And there's bears and there's mosquitoes and all this sort of thing. And because I'm camping the whole time, it's sort of like I'll be kind of taking them on, and it's all solo as well. So it's probably the most nervous I've been about any of the trips, to be honest, just because it's that little bit kind of further out than I've ever really been before. And because the Dalton, half the people I speak to and have spoken to say it's a piece of piss. Every people have done it on Harley Davidsons and mopeds. And then you get another school of people who say, hey, listen, you can really hurt yourself and you've got to have your wits about you because the weather can change, the road can be tricky. So I'm sort of like landing in the middle somewhere, being respectful enough, but also hopeful I can do it without any major incidents.
Yeah, you got to be realistic. I think the actual ride you'll manage no problem. Not saying you're not going to manage, but you know what I mean? The actual ride, it's not going to be anything horrendous. It's dirt track. It's not tarmac, but that'll be all right. But it's everything else that you just mentioned. I mean, bears are a genuine big concern. What are you doing to protect against them?
Well, so I'm definitely going to get some bear spray. I spoke to a guy at work who he's an ex-army guy. He was like, "Oh, you should try and get a gun." But like, I mean, I've never fired a gun, and I'm not sure I'd be any use with it. So I think it's just going to be trying to follow the protocol. But I don't know if you saw in the news just fairly recently, there was a guy, I think it was last week, got killed by a bear. He was a United States Marine guy who was out there. So yeah, it is a big deal. And I've been researching to try and make sure I know what to do, but there's different approaches if you've got a brown bear versus a black bear. Yeah. And sometimes they can have a brown bear can have black fur, and a black bear can have brown fur. And I'm colorblind. So I don't really know what I'm going to do if I see one. I'm just hopeful if I follow the guidance, put my food away from my tent, all this sort of good thing, that I won't. And I'll be on the road most of the time. It's mainly when I stop to camp, I guess I'll be exposed. But it is, I mean, in Europe, we don't have this to contend with, right? Norway, Sweden, Iceland. No, the worst you'll get is like a moose trying to chomp on some sort of greenery around you. So yeah, it's I'm talking to my wife the other day, and she was getting a bit freaked out as well.
It's one of those things, man, that you have to be aware that it's an issue, but you can't, and you won't. I know. I think I know enough about you to know that you won't do that, but you won't freak yourself out. You won't beat yourself psychologically about it, because you could just with all the different potential hazards and potential things that are going to come up against you could come up against. It would put a lot of people off, wouldn't it? But you're plainly not that type of person, and you got to be measured about it. But you accept the risk and you go. Mate, it's awesome. I cannot wait to follow. Yeah. So how long do you think it's going to take?
So the actual route, I'm going to try and do it in 7 days because of the time to get over there. Just getting the time off work and stuff. So it's a fairly, my original plan when I was planning in 2018 was to fly the bike into Vancouver and go like up through the Rockies and have a proper like 4-week trip. But just the way things have landed with holidays from work and other commitments this year that I've got. Yeah. So I need to try and do it in set. It doesn't really give me much leeway. So I'm going to be averaging about 300 miles a day. And I've got a little bit, what I think in my initial plan is a day sort of like spare in case of, get a puncture or, anything kind of comes across with the weather or anything. But it's going to be, it's not just taking it easy. I'm really going to be kind of hammering it from the day that I kind of land.
Yeah.
Pick up the bike, get some supplies, and then just hit the road and just get going, and obviously try and enjoy it a little bit. But it's going to be fun.
So what, you're going to ride all the way up to Dead Horse, get your picture, turn around and ride all the way back?
Basically, that's the kind of way it tends to be with these things. And I've got a little, so there's basically, for when you go up from Anchorage, there's 2 ways you can get around to Fairbanks. There's like going through like Denali National Park, which is the way I'm going to go. And on the way back, you can come through sort of like Delta Junction, and there's supposed to be some really picturesque and beautiful roads. That's almost like the treat on the way back is to go through and if I get enough time, you can go south from Anchorage to a place called Stuart, and there's some beautiful roads and scenery, which would be another treat if I've got the time to do that. So,
mate, that's nuts. That is awesome. Oh, a week. There you go, folks. The amount of people, I don't know if you get this, the amount of people that say, oh, I'd love to do that, but I can't get, there's no way I could get X amount of time off work, blah, 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 blah. Well, here you go. There's a man who is accommodating it. In a week, he's doing this absolutely epic trip. You just set your mind to it and go for it. Figure it out and go. You're going to do it, man. I know you will.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited. And it's kind of like, I've had enough experience now of kind of throwing myself into things and put myself under that time pressure to kind of like, and I think that's the thing that actually drives me to kind of think, I like to look at a route and say, how quickly and safely could I do that? I know you've got people like Nick Sanders who like bomb around the world, but when I've planned basically all the different Arctic rides out in the Sweden and Finland one. If I don't have to go through Russia, which I was kind of grouping those 3 of those together, if I'm just doing Sweden and Finland, I reckon I could potentially knock that out in like a week if I was really going for it, which would be a big one. But it's kind of combining, because you've done the Iron Butt rides before, haven't you? It's sort of combining the endurance side of the Iron Butt, but obviously not doing that for 7 days or 8 days straight, but kind of like giving yourself, rather than doing 300 miles a day, to, hey, let's do 500 and then 500 and 500. And it's amazing how you can tick off the mileage.
It is, yeah. I'm just thinking, I don't mean this derogatory. I'm saying you're only going to the Arctic Circle, and places like Norway, it's literally halfway up the country. Because I remember I got into the Arctic Circle and I was like, I'm nearly at Nordkap. Nah, it was like another 5 days before I got up there. It's crazy. There's such huge land masses. Mind you, you're going to Alaska, which in itself is
Well, so there's a guy I've met on some forums who's been more than helpful, called Ethan, he's a biker over there, and he's been helping me with some of the logistics. He sent me this thing where it was a layover of Alaska laid over Europe, and I was like, oh, it's the same size as mainland Europe. Great. Yeah. So I'm essentially riding from like Rome, like up to Oslo, on dirt roads.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing, isn't it? Like, we look at maps and maps lie. They often show the UK much bigger than it actually is, and everywhere else not quite as large as it is. Yeah. It's only once you get there, and you look at the sheer scale of it. Fucking hell, this place is enormous. Yeah.
But that was, I was talking through a guy at work about it. He was chatting to me the other day, and we sort of worked out that that bit of the Dalton where there's no services is like riding from Newcastle to London. Mm-hmm. So no towns, with nothing, just dirt and a little bit of tarmac and a couple of mountain passes to get over and some angry trucks. That's going to be about.
And bears. Oh, and wolves. You got wolves as well. Remember that?
Oh my gosh.
Murderous lorry drivers. Yeah, it's going to be fun, man. So who are you doing this for then? What charity are you doing it for?
So this time, I've done a couple of charities over these different trips. So the first ones were for Cerebra, who are a brain injury charity, who helped my little brother. And then we did Tiny Lives for both my kids who were born premature. And I've got the T-shirt on, actually. So this ride is for the National Autistic Society of the UK. Mm-hmm. So last summer, my son Hugo, who's 4, got diagnosed as being autistic. And they've given us some fantastic help for me and my wife in terms of how to kind of process that and help kind of accommodate things for him. And I've also found out they do some other amazing work all over the UK. And it just felt like totally the right thing to do to give a little bit back, and obviously kind of, do it for Hugo and have that extra motivation that I'm kind of, doing something for me that me and him can hopefully look back on, and maybe one day him and I'll go together and do a ride up to Alaska or something like that. So,
oh mate, how cool would that be?
Yeah.
That would be awesome. My son keeps mentioning, I'd quite like to do my bike test, but he's not even driving yet. He's 24 and he's still not even driving a car. So I don't know if he'll ever do it, but that would be awesome, to go on a bike ride with your kid.
Yeah, no, I think so. It would be really special.
Especially if, to redo this Alaska trip again, the one that you did sort of for him, and yeah, that'd be awesome. So what's the target? Do you have a target amount that you want to raise?
Yeah, so it's difficult to judge because I've had my 2014 ride to Nordkapp. We did like 5,000, which was way beyond what I expected. But I always try and start kind of modestly, because I've seen some people sometimes go out with kind of like, and this isn't just, charity bike things, but like marathons, and they go out with mega targets that, if you get the right people behind you, you can achieve. But otherwise, we started looking at 1,000 and we kind of hit that a couple of weeks ago. So I put it up to 1,500, which we're near. So I'm hoping, because I always get a bit of interest when I'm doing the rides, if we reach 2,000, I think I'd be really happy with that. And that'll go a long way for the charity as well. So,
and how do people support you? How do people donate?
So I've got a Just Giving link, which is all over my kind of social media. So on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or on YouTube. And it's as simple as you click on there and you can go in if you already got an account, or you can pay without an account. And all the money goes straight to the charity. Nothing goes to me. You can apply for gift aid if you're in the UK, which means the government will kind of offset your tax, so you can give 25% more. So yeah, and you can just actually search for it. It's just justgiving.com/the Arctic Rider, no spaces.
Awesome.
So if anyone's interested,
I'm sure they will, mate. Let's get behind Gordon on this. It's a fantastic trip, but it's a really good cause. So if you're feeling so way inclined, if you're listening to the podcast, look at the show notes. If you're watching the vid, hello, check out the description down below, and I'll leave all the links for not only his Just Giving page, but for his socials as well, so you can follow him. What was I going to say? There's something came to my mind there just as you said it. Donating. What were we just talking about? It was just about the links, wasn't it?
The target. We were talking about the target as well.
Oh, yes. Yeah. When you said about setting like a target that you want to reach. I did that. I saw people do other charity things where they were raising like, 1 million, 5 million. And you just think, okay, you get enough people behind you. Yeah, okay, let's go for it. And I remember on my trip, I set off thinking, well, it's going to be 100,000 miles, 10 or a mile. £1 million, and you very quickly realize it's not that easy, is it? So I think I ended up raising I think about 15 grand across my 4 or 5 charities that I had on board. But it's tough, isn't it? It is really tough.
And it is, and it's kind of like, I think some of the challenge, like it depends who you get behind you, and also the circles that you kind of fall in, and all this sort of thing. And it's sometimes the luck of the draw about who's spotted your thing, right? And I think the challenge for me is like I go kind of cap in hand to all my friends on Facebook and stuff, and kind of family and things. But one thing that's, I guess, helped me is I've kind of changed jobs a couple of times whilst doing this, so there's always kind of fresh batch of colleagues who are always very kind of supporting these things, and when you tell them you're going, and again, like, I've had some really generous donations through LinkedIn, actually, through my network of people that I work with, or people who have known from before, and I'm eternally grateful for some of the some really, really generous donations from some of the execs at my work and stuff like that, which really makes a difference to kind of ratchet up your total. But one of the kind of nicest donations I ever had was from this guy called Andy in Switzerland. This is when I did my 2014 ride. We were sort of in a group of people who were kind of knocking around on Twitter. And out of the blue, he donated £500, which was just like so generous. And I messaged him and said, "Oh, I can't thank you enough. It's over generous." And he was just sort of like, "Hey, listen, I can afford it right now. It's a great charity that I think you're doing it for." And then we ended up kind of meeting up, and he did my iron butt with me when I did Land's End to John O'Groats. He rode with me, and it was just like this kind of friendship blossomed out of his huge generosity, which, like, just some person I'd never met on Twitter giving £500, I was just blown away. But it's just like generosity out there, even through really tough times. People seem to be getting more generous. Like, we're all, there's a lot of people who are really feeling the pinch these days, yet there's so many great things going on. So it's the generosity of the public which kind of makes all of these things happen. Without all the donations, this would just be a sort of weird little project I was doing by myself. So it's fantastic to have that community around me.
Absolutely. How are you funding this yourself then? Have you managed to get sponsorship behind you?
So this time I've really struggled. So back in the day, like I said, I've had sponsored from like Suzuki before. I've had Devon Insurance, who've been a great supporter of mine. I've had local motorbike clubs, local bike shops, but it seems over the kind of 11 years that I've been doing this, everything's kind of, people have got cottoned on to kind of, ESG strategies for their companies, and they have seem to have a lot targeted things now. So when you approach companies, they kind of say, "Oh, we'd love to, but actually we already do X, Y, and Z." So I've really struggled, and I don't know how, pandemics obviously affected businesses, how much cash they've got to go. So this trip is all just out of Gordon's kind of saving fund. And I've got a very, very understanding wife who kind of lets me, kind of fund these trips. Yeah. So it's just one of those things this time. I haven't been able to work my kind of magic to get anyone else on board, but that's obviously, I do it with them, not a problem to kind of fund it myself, and just, I'll keep obviously hoping people will find an opportunity to see that it's useful, but if not, I'll keep just kind of self-funding so we can keep the fundraising going. What
about some sort of Patreon page for you?
Yeah, I thought about that in terms of kind of helping with some of the things, but obviously I know there's again, it's sort of like a very sort of crowded market, and aware that people need content. And one of the things I struggle with is I'm quite time poor these days. I've got 2 young kids. I've got a demanding job. I try to do this stuff to be able to roll out the content, and having people interested in what you're doing is when you've got a niche like you and some of the other guys have got. But it's something to think about for the next one.
Honestly, mate, I think you'd be surprised at the generosity of the public out there. Like, with my Patreon, I don't want money for nothing. I want to give them something back, whether that's a vid one day before everybody else, or sometimes it's a matter of hours before I make it go live. And to be honest, sometimes I can't. Literally, it's like I finished the vid, it's rendered, I've uploaded it. Here you go. Here's the link, and I'm just going to go and post it on my like live public socials as well. But the amount of people that turn around to me and go, "Look, we don't expect anything extra. We just want to support you." And for you in your sort of unique, I would say you've got a unique situation. There's a lot of people doing things for charity, but you're consistently doing things for charity, and you've done a number already. So you've got a pedigree behind you. You've got the story, and you've got a plan for the future. It's like there's 8 of these challenges to do. So, you'll be ticking them off. And I think people can invest in that sort of thing. Even something like what I did on the Teapot trip was people paid I think it was £100, you know. I think if they paid £100, I'd get their name put onto the fairing, because I had my bike totally wrapped before I went. And on the big side white fairings, I basically went, right, you know, if for £100, you'll get your name put on there, thinking I might get a couple, like my family, maybe my family would do it. And honestly, the fairings were full. And that was an idea that I saw some of the one of the TT racers at the time, Isle of Man TT racers, that's what he was doing to try and help fund his season. Honestly, it's just things like that. People they'll gladly support in any way that they can. Patreon's a great way to do it. I know what you mean. You feel like you've got the hat out, don't you? Please help. But people want to help. You know, if they invest in you, they will help you for sure.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take much to set up.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'll look into it. And I think, you know, obviously it's kind of like, first and foremost, I'm all about trying to get as much as we can to the charities and, you know, and kind of making the difference through there. But yeah, no, it's the thing, because it is an investment. And I always try and make sure that kind of like from a, you know, the amount of money it would cost me to do a trip, that we try and raise more than that. So there's kind of like, otherwise I might as well just put £500 into the charity myself and not do it.
Yeah,
you know?
Of course.
So it's trying to, you know, and that's the kind of, that's the real kind of aim for each of the trips. And, you know, this one's a bit more expensive because of the flights, but equally, I'm not like, I would have been flying a bike over, which is really, really expensive. So, you know, just the kind of individual flight and a bit of bike hire, actually, it's not as, and I was actually surprised, I think it's where the exchange rate's gone a little bit, how relatively inexpensive it was to hire a bike out there. I'd looked into it a couple of years ago, and actually the kind of day rate, you know, and I'm, you know, more expensively higher, like the 1250 adventure. But, you know, for 750, it's like, you know, it's really not that, it's about what you pay for renting a car, you know, if you're in Spain or something. It's kind of like really, you know, not that expensive, you know, from what I've kind of done before. So I think that was also kind of what made this trip a little bit easier, that it was it's kind of ready-made to go. And, you know, they fit the MotorQuest to putting like the knobbly tires on and making sure the suspensions, you know, everything gets a once over before you go. So hopefully a bike that's ready to do that kind of trip. So.
Awesome. Mate, my mind's going, my sort of fledgling business mind is going into overdrive here as to how you can minimize your outlays as much as possible through companies and stuff. We'll have a wee chat. I mean, I appreciate you're weeks away from going, but certainly for the other ones, it's maybe something that we could have a chat with. And
yeah, no, definitely. It'd be good. And, you know, again, it's one of those things that getting one company on board can make the difference. And if you can be the kind of story and the angle for them, this is what I've had with the likes of Devitt and stuff in the past, you know, and they've been, and I think Devitt, did they support you, or was that someone else I'm thinking of?
Bimoto came on board the channel last year, but they've sort of, they're not financially sponsoring the channel anymore. Well, okay. I've got no involvement with Bimoto anymore, to be honest. I think they wanted us to do some sort of what do you call it? Like for every insurance policy which we managed to sell for them, then you'd get a commission from it. And I was just like, I'm not interested in that. That's not my cup of tea. Like, you make your sales on how good your service is, not off of, you know, me banging a drum for you. But anyway, so yeah, I'm not doing that. But anyway, it's a difficult one, isn't it? When you bring on sponsorship, you have to be very clear about what your expectations and what you're prepared to do for that company are, and they have to be very clear what they expect from you in return. I've found, just in my experience, you can not easily, but you can find yourself verbally agreeing to come into some sort of sponsorship partnership without either of you having anything really set in stone about what you expect the other to do. And it never ends well, that you really have to set things out and go, right, this is what I'll give you. This is what I want from you. Bosh. Yeah, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, no, make that promise. No, I had that when I did my 2014 trip, which was, I think it's kind of, that's the kind of biggest sort of like, you know, following and stuff I kind of got out of all the trips. But the Northeast Motorcycle Racing Club sponsored me to kind of go. And I agreed, you know, sort of said, I'll do whatever you guys want me to do. And I found myself at the Croft racing circuit up in here in the north, handing out trophies to all these superbike riders. And I don't really know how it happened. I was like, they don't really know who I am, but I'm here. Like, I'd been in the commentary tower and stuff like this. And it was really peculiar, like acting like some sort of like half celebrity, handing out these shaking back people's hands. Like, that was really quite funny. Wasn't expecting that one.
Isn't it weird how this whole YouTube bikey world, what paths it can take you down, where you find yourself? She's like, how did this happen? Absolutely. But I'm also amazed. I mean, I've got like, and I'm very grateful for this. I seem to have like a core following of people who've kind of, evolved as I've evolved and followed me right the way through. And it's fantastic. And the same people keep popping up and keep supporting and keep donating. And it's just, it's really fantastic. And I haven't got these huge audiences, hundreds of thousands of followers or anything like that. But I'm really pleased with the kind of solid group of, it's probably kind of like 100 or so kind of like proper bikers, and then obviously all friends and family who follow. But it makes it worth it, even just for that kind of small. We've got this little kind of tight group, which is really, really nice. And I've met up with a few people, and it's kind of just, it's great, like what you do, but on a much kind of smaller scale, No, but I mean, that for me is what it's all about. It's that nice little tight community that you develop. And it's crazy how as you grow, as your brand grows and that community grows, before you know it, you end up with, like, I think I had 60 odd people turn up at my latest clan meetup. And I certainly knew by sight, by face, I knew probably, I would say 3/4 to not 4/5 of them. And, probably a good half I know all the names of. And it's crazy how, like, a group of strangers quickly become quite a close little group of friends, really, through this. It's nuts. I love it. And I love how you get people who, they've maybe been bikers for 20, 30 years, but they've never gone anywhere in the UK. They've ridden their own little roads and they had their own little routine. Some of them never ride with anybody. They just go down their own little roads and they go to their local calf, and that's what they do. That's what they've done for decades. And then all of a sudden, something like, what we do turns up, where the switch goes and they just go, do you know what? I'm gonna go along to that, mate. Let's do it. And then when they get there, they find, some other biker that lives down the road from them, or in the same town or the next town along. And the next thing you know, they're out meeting up with people, and, WhatsApp groups generate, don't they? And the next thing you know, we're going to Wales, we're going to Ireland, we're off to Spain. I love it. It just opens the door for people.
No, it's fantastic. I've had a couple of people actually who said some of my trips have kind of inspired them to go and do different things. And I think that's absolutely fantastic, because the world's out there to be kind of seen. And it does take a lot, especially if you're not in a group. If you're going to do something solo, it takes a lot to, chuck your gear on the back of the bike and put your helmet on and go. And my first trips, that, like, not the Arctic ones, but my first big trip I did was when I was 19. I went with two of my mates. And that was kind of like a really good grounding to have that security of there's three of you rather than that first one I did by myself. When I was I crashed my bike in Sweden, actually, which was a bit of a gutter. But yeah, that was kind of like, it took a lot of courage. It doesn't sound like it now, because I do it, we've done it plenty of times, but it does take a lot of courage to go and do that. But I would,
definitely,
anyone who is thinking about it or hasn't done it, gosh, just go and do it. It doesn't have to be around the world or to Norway, or, go to Scotland, go to Wales. There's so many beautiful kind of back and beyond places on this island, or I'm sure any other countries that might be listening, but just go and do it, and you won't regret it. I almost guarantee that. Absolutely.
Just step outside of your comfort zone. Just do something that you don't normally do. Go somewhere you don't normally go, and that's an adventure, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. And it's also some of the things I kind of like, I get a little sort of nice smile out of, is when you're doing one of these big trips and you're either on your way or on your way back and you meet other bikers. Like I remember when I was coming back from Iceland, I'd stopped at Ferry Bridge Services, which is about 100 miles from Newcastle, last stop. And there's a couple of bikers there, and as you do, we just got chatting. And they said, "Oh, have you been on a big trip, have you?" I was like, "Oh yeah, I've been on a big trip." They're like, "Oh, we're going up to Alston in Northumberland from Cambridge." I was like, "Oh, great. Where have you been, mate?" And I was like, "Oh, I've just been to Iceland." And they were like, "Sorry, Iceland?" I was like, "Yeah,
the mic."
Exactly. And they were like, "Oh, great, that sounds fun." I was like, "Yeah, anyway, best get on." But it's kind of like having those stories to tell, and you come back and it's fantastic. I think that's part of the thrill of doing it, is to be able to kind of, have those things to reminisce on.
Absolutely. Dude, we better crack on with some questions here. We've got quite a few to get through over on Patreon for sure. And hopefully we'll get across to Instagram and Facebook, because the last few podcasts I've not managed it. Mate, speaking of sponsorships and things, do you mind if I do a couple of little sponsor readouts?
Let's go for it.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Folks, couldn't do this without the sponsors that come on board for the podcast and for the main channel. So this week, the podcast is sponsored by Ultimate Add-ons. And I'm going to read their blurb. Normally I make it up. I'm going to read it this time. Ultimate Add-ons are the premium manufacturer of mobile phone and action camera mounting solutions for motorcycles. With a kit for any bike and a proven track record of creating products that keep your devices safe, secure, and easily accessible, the Ultimate Add-ons product range is ideal for any rider, from the commuter to the round-the-world adventurer. Why shell out on an expensive GPS system when you could use your smartphone, keeping it charged and within reach to take photos of your travels at the same time? Ultimate Add-ons waterproof, shockproof, and dustproof tough cases are available for all flagship smartphone models and are designed by riders for riders. Find out why Ride Magazine gives Ultimate Add-ons their coveted Best Buy certification. Keep riding this winter. With Ultimate Add-ons, it's all about the journey. Head to Ultimate Add-ons, that's ultimate with ADDONS.com, and then use the code TeapotOne with the number 10 next to it, TeapotOne10, and you'll get 10% off their entire range. Now, the one I stand by, I've used a lot of their kit, but the one that I've pretty much used exclusively now for about the last 4 years is the Helix strap mount. It's in the bicycle section. So go in there. It's not in the motorbike section. Use that one. It's like a ratchet strap with a ball joint at the top, and then your case, you buy the case for whatever phone you've got, and then that just slots straight in it. That, for me, I've found it works with just about any bike out there, and I've had no issues with any vibration on my camera. We're also sponsored by the Influencer Store. The Influencer Store helps you build your brand, big or small, providing you with a solution and apparel. We help you increase your fan base while supporting you with starting your own influencer clothing line with nothing more than just an idea or design, and there are no hidden costs. For more info, come check us out at theinfluencerstore.co.uk or drop us an email at online@influencerstore.co.uk for more information. Influencer Store handle all my merch, so if you head to teapotone.com, go to the shop there. Everything is handled by Roger and Charlotte and the family from the Influencer Store. Okay, mate, I am back. Sorry about that. Right. First off, if we head across to the clan over on Patreon, it's patreon.com/TeapotOne. First one, Lee Vigor. How you doing, Lee? Hello, both. Hope all is well. A question to you both. What is the strangest thing that has ever happened to you while you were touring on the bike, and where was it? I think you covered this. You covered this last time, didn't you?
I did, about the axe murderer in Norway.
That's right.
But I've got another strange one, which I can go for if you want. Which was kind of it's more of a funny. It's one thing I'm surprised it almost didn't come up at my best man speech at my wedding. So when I was like I said, when I was 19, touring around Europe with my mates, like we were kind of like penniless students. I don't even know how we did it. My mates Ollie and Joe, and actually I met my mate Joe. I hadn't seen him for ages, and he was telling me how he'd actually lied to his parents and said we were going to my dad's house for a couple of weeks rather than touring around Europe. But we went sort of like we went down to France, and we got into went into Switzerland and came back up through Germany and Luxembourg and Belgium, and had a great time for 3 weeks. It was absolutely cracking. But we went out. We had a bit of an argument actually. My mate wanted to go to Cologne in Germany, and the two others wanted to go to Luxembourg, and we decided to go to Luxembourg. And to sort of like kind of make things better, we went out for a couple of beers, and that turned into, we went to this bar and like having shots and stuff. And anyway, ended up getting absolutely hammered. And the first part of the story is that we were basically going kind of bar to bar. And we got into this one bar, and it was my turn to buy a round, and it was something like 20 odd euros for 3 beers. And I was like, hey, and I paid it because I was a little bit drunk. And then we were sort of like looking around, and we were like, oh, there's no one really here. We'll head upstairs and see if there's much going on upstairs. And upstairs, there was kind of just all of these sort of like beds with these sort of like net curtains around them. And there was just these like,
this is a family show, Gordon.
And we sort of realized very quickly we're in sort of some sort of halfway house like bar brothel, which we soon escaped from.
Where was this?
It's at Luxembourg. I'll get you the address, please. But then the next weird thing that happened is, because we were a little bit worse for wear, we went back to another bar, and then all of a sudden my mate came up, and he had this long jacket on. He had it's like a Belstaff type jacket, and inside he had loads of bottles of wine. And I was like, what? Where are they from? He's like, oh, we need to go. And all of a sudden we were just running down this street in Luxembourg with these guys from this bar chasing us. because my mate decided it would be a good idea to nick some wine. I don't know how we escaped with our lives, to be honest. The wine ended up being left somewhere so that we didn't get killed. Oh my gosh. And then we woke up. We were supposed to ride back to Belgium the next day, but we had the worst hangovers ever and ended up just sort of like sleeping it off in the tent, just being absolute. I don't know. There's the only real two things I remember from that evening is the bar brothel and then running away from some angry Luxembourg bar owners. So.
Sounds like a good night. Strangest thing. Have I told the story about the French bread and cheese? Have I told that story?
I don't remember it, but there's so much content out there, Bruce, whether it's actually been covered.
I'm not sure if I think I've told the story on here. Well, anyway, this is what it goes like. One of the first times I went across into Europe with a couple of mates on the bikes, we were going to France. And this was back in the days where we were just stupid. We would do like 18 hours on the bike. You know, you do like 900-mile days, all on the back roads on sports bikes, just because you've just passed your test and whoa, we're going on holiday. So one of my mates, for some reason, bearing in mind this is 3 burly lads on a motorcycle trip, he was like, I want to go and see this Bon Village. France has these bon villages, beautiful villages. There's like a list of them. And he said, this place is supposed to be gorgeous. I want to go and see it. So we didn't question it. Thinking back, we didn't even raise an eyebrow. It was like, yeah, cool, let's just go there then. So it took us all day to get there in the peeing rain. And we eventually get there at like 9:30 at night. It's pitch black. We didn't see any of the village. We got into the only hotel in this little village and sort of had a shower, got ourselves ready, came out onto the sort of common, the grass area, and there was a restaurant just over with a light on. I thought, all right, we'll go in there. So we've gone in. It's now like just after 10. And as we go in, the guy is literally saying goodbye to the last customers. So we sort of come in and said, you know, is there any chance of some food? We spoke a little bit of French. And he was like, yeah, no problem, no one. You want a beer? I said, steak, we'll steak to you. I'm like, yeah, beautiful, beautiful. So we sat down, he brings us over some beers, and then being France, they come over with the basket of bread. And we're like, oh, happy days. And he put some dishes out on the table. So we just tuck into these dishes, get the knives out and like scoop these dishes out, put them onto the bread, and we're munching it down. So we're starving. We're munching it down and we're like, God, it's quite bland cheese, this. It's like not much taste. It's horrible. But anyway, we finished these bowls and the guy comes back and he's like, do you want some more bread? I'm like, oh, yeah, please, thanks. So he brings us more bread and he brings another 3 of these little dishes out, puts them down, and he gets a lighter out and lights them. They were candles. He's been spreading candles on our bread and munching them. Yeah, he must have just looked at us and just thought, English. I think, is that the strangest thing? That's the only thing I can think of. There's something that happened in La Rochelle, but that's not for podcast talking. We'll chat about that over a couple of beers privately, I think. Gordon. Nice one, Lee. Cheers for that, mate. He says, stay safe, look good, and good luck on your next epic adventure. Nice one. Charlie Callard. Evening all. Hope you're all well. All good. Thank you, Charlie. So my question, why the V-Strom over the other adventure bikes? Also, apart from it's an awesome thing to do, what keeps you trying these amazing feats? Good question.
So I'll start with the V-Strom. So I think the V-Strom, so, you know, all out there, Suzuki have been very kind to me over the last couple of years, right? So I did my 2014 trip on 650, just like a 650F, so the sports tourer, and then and they supported me in terms of they giving like a free service for some exposure because it was a bike they were thinking at the time. And I first got wind of the V-Strom when I was talking about doing the original Alaska trip, and then took it to Iceland, and I had such a good time on it. And I realized I remember being lined up at the ferry in northern Denmark, which is how you go over to Iceland. And there was loads of bikers, German, Dutch, couple of American bikers, another English guy. And it was all GS Adventures, the big KTMs. There was a couple of the Triumph Tigers. And I was the only guy on this sort of V-Strom. And I thought, oh gosh, have I done the wrong thing here? Like, am I just going to get sort of like, is this bike not kind of ready for kind of what lies ahead with some Icelandic roads? And it was an absolute kind of treat. Didn't miss a beat the whole trip, managed some of the off-road stuff. The 1,000 was a bit heavy for me because I'm not the biggest guy. So when I got back, I moved on to the 650. But I think the thing for me is that it's kind of like, I tried some of the other bikes, like I tried the Tiger 800, a couple of the other kind of mid-sized adventure bikes. And I didn't think there was enough difference for the price difference for me, because I haven't just got loads of money to spend for me to justify that kind of difference in the price. And I think that's the main reason why I've really stuck by the kind of V-Stroms. And actually they've done everything I've needed them to do over the years. And I think that's just where I'm at. And, this is the first trip that I've done where there's any sort of off-roading, not on a V-Strom. I couldn't actually, MotorQuest didn't have any V-Stroms available for me to rent, which is why I've gone for the Beamer. Although the only thing is, I went and test rode one of the Beamers at Sunderland a couple of weeks ago. Oh God, it was amazing. It's kind of like I'm now sort of on this thing like, okay, now is this worth, because some of the other bikes weren't, this one. So we'll see. Once I've done a kind of week or so riding on it, maybe I'll kind of change my tune. But I think if you're kind of constrained by the money you want to pay for a bike and you want a really solid, reliable and durable kind of fairly sort of dual purpose to do a bit of kind of like off-road and stuff, I think the V-Strom's great, and you put the right tires on it and you get used to riding it the right way. And I think it's a fantastic bike. And I paid something, I got an offer when I got mine brand new, and I traded in my 650F. I think I paid less than $5,000 for a brand new. Yeah. It was the way the offer went, and I got $1,000 for my trade, and it was kind of like, I really couldn't complain at that at all in terms of what, the amount of bike you get for your money is fantastic.
There's a lot of snobbery around. There's a lot of snobbery around about Suzuki's. Even back in the days when I was riding the Gixxer, there was just, I don't know, people just have this weird attitude towards Suzuki's. But I mean, you get so much for your money. I think they're probably one of the best ones out there for bang for buck. And as you said, mechanically, they're bloody bulletproof. Well, I know for a fact they're bulletproof. Mm-hmm. They used to have not great electrics, but even since I've been riding them since like 2008, 2009, the electrics have been spot on with me. I've never had an issue with the Suzuki electrics ever. I'm personally kind of gutted things went the way they did with Suzuki UK for me, because I love the brand. I love the brand. I can't say a bad thing about them. It's a shame. But that V-Strom, I've never ridden the V-Strom, never had a shot of it. But everybody tells me there's a lot of bike for the money.
And the 650, which is, I think, definitely the best of the two, because they've got the 1050 now, which is the same as what was the 1,000 that I used, but they tweaked it slightly. And I had Suzuki gave me a 1050 last autumn, which I did some like test riding and wrote an article for them. Really lovely bike. But the 650, I think it's great. But it's kind of like it's just also so easy to ride. Like I think if you're brand new to riding, you want a big bike, and it's not super powerful, but it's enough to kind of one up doing touring and stuff. Like, my 650, I did the Scotland Four Corners ride last year. And it was fantastic. And it's just so comfy and great mile to the gallon, and kind of just, and they kind of look a little bit funny compared to some of the bikes. Like mine's bright yellow, and there's a bit of banter on some of the social media stuff about how yellow it is and being a banana bike, but actually it kind of stands out, and it's kind of Absolutely. Like, I don't really mind. So I really, if anyone hasn't tried one, I'd highly recommend them, just to see how they feel and how they go.
Yeah, I'm going to try and get my hands on one if I can. I've got quite a good relationship with a couple of Suzuki dealerships, and they've been very good to me. I'm taking out the new GT on Thursday, I think it is. So I'm looking forward to that, because the GSX S1000, the new GSX S1000, was a fantastic bike, phenomenal bike, brilliant for the road. So it'll be interesting to see what the new GT's like. What keeps you doing what you're doing? What keeps you doing all these charity rides?
I think it's having the kind of family situation that I've got, where we've got quite a few different things going on, like complexity things, and kind of seeing that kind of day to day, but also kind of living with, it's quite stressful having, like, my son who's autistic. He takes an awful lot of kind of effort from both my wife and I to kind of look after him and make sure he's kind of sorted. And I think it's just about a balance between trying to do something to help other people who are in a similar situation. But also it's just my kind of outlet in life to be doing something that I really am passionate about and want to do. Like I love motorbiking. I've loved bikes since ever can I remember. My dad had bikes. So to be able to kind of focus on something each time and have a bit of it, because I don't do as much riding as I probably would like to, and I used to do before, I kind of had a family and stuff, but this is my way to stay really connected to it and also force myself to kind of put myself out there. I think it's very easy, and we saw this with the pandemic, right, to just sit in your house and feel kind of safe, but actually life's kind of, they're kind of for me, like on the road, going and doing these different things. And I feel like I've almost, because I've done quite a few of these trips now and I do them every couple of years, there's almost an expectation that once I've done one, I'm already thinking about the next one. We start planning. I think we had this question last time in terms of, how do you force yourself to do it? Planning, book stuff. But it's just me kind of hopefully, taking the advice that like you and a lot of other people preach to go and get out there and do those things. But also one really key thing for me is I've got a very understanding wife who encourages me actively. I think just happy to get me out of the house and have the TV herself. She's great in terms of saying like, don't just sit there and think you're kind of done. You need to keep going and doing these things because you do a fantastic thing. And it's, all that kind of stuff. And then, the things I get on social media when people ping me and say, hey, when are you doing your next ride? I mean, that's a huge motivation to go and kind of do something different. So it's a mix of all of those things. But I think I can't imagine not doing it now. I can't imagine not being the Arctic rider, which I think is a great place to be in.
Yeah, definitely. Jack Lore Knives, he also says, I echo that question. I'm also a V-Strom rider and I love it. And it would be good to hear other opinions on the V-Strom as a long distance bike. Yeah, okay. So obviously you really like it. What about, could you give us, let's go TMF on you. Could you give us, like, I'm aware of times here, let's say top three and 3 things you like about the V-Strom and 3 things that you'd like changed, if possible. How about that?
So I think 3 things that I like is definitely the way that it handles. Like I said, both on road and on a bit of gravel, it's quite easy to ride. It makes you feel confident and comfortable, which I really like about it. Whereas I've been on other bikes where it can feel a little bit tricky. I do love how cheap it is to run, cheap it is to insure, cheap it was to buy. That really kind of makes a difference in terms of all of those things. It's just generally like makes it really economical. The engine's really good. Also I really like the styling. I know some other people don't, but I do really like it. Like I said before, I love the kind of bright yellow. I love the little beak that they've put on it. And it just kind of works. Yeah, it just kind of works for me. It's sort of like, it's just sort of nice little standout bike. In terms of things that I think it could improve, it could definitely do with a little bit more power, especially because it competes a lot of time with like some 800cc bikes. And I think that you'd notice the difference being on a 650. And if you were going to be 2-up touring or you like to carry a lot of kit, that's something I'd struggle to be really comfortable 2-up on it, just because of the power that it's got. I think it could do with a little bit more flexibility. Like it's got adjustable traction control. You can't turn the ABS on and off. It could do with just a little bit more kind of, it's quite restrictive. It's, it's got those, nice bits of technology, but they're kind of like probably the technology you'd expect 10 years ago on a bike, not with some of the kind of new things that you've kind of got now. And I think one of the other things that's kind of the difficult thing is, and, we're all human, is that, it's not really looked upon as being a sort of super stylish bike. And it could just, you have to kind of bear that. If you're going to have it, you have to know that you're probably not going to look as cool and trendy as like, and, it's all the expectation of some of those other riders. I know that affects people because you want to look good in front of your mates, right? You want your mates to think, oh, that's a cracking bike. And it just doesn't have that, it's just very sort of like kind of beige. And you have to be prepared for that if you go to have one.
That's part of the reason why I went for the GS was because it had that reputation of, there was a select group of people who had the GSs and rode them, but most people like look down on them. They're like, they're pig ugly. It's not, it just had that. It had that persona, didn't it? It had that reputation as not a biker's bike. But I love the way the thing handled, and I love taking it on the track. And I was like, I like to be a bit different, obviously. And I was like, I want that bike to do what I know it can do and make people go, okay, now I didn't know they did that. But now everyone's got them. Like literally everyone's getting them. And now I'm like, I'm going to have to get a different bike. But I don't want a different bike. I love that bike. So I'm like, yeah, what am I going to do now? What am I going to get next? Anyway, never mind. Oh, are you there? I can see you.
I can see you.
I don't know what I'm doing in that picture.
That's I think that's for later, isn't it, Bruce? You've got
yeah. Look, where's my hands? Look, here's both my hands. Hi. I don't know what's going on there. Let me stop the picture and restart it. Stop video. Hopefully, let's try that. Stop
I'm not
video.
going to get that image out of my head now.
Yeah, I know. I was looking at it thinking, what am I doing? Start video. Pause active. Way, right, we're back.
There he is.
Oh, blimey, right. So I'm still recording. I've got this. Right. Sorry about that, folks. My camera went a little bit weird. I promise that wasn't any extracurricular activities by me. Where were we?
We were talking about the V-Strom, and
yes.
You were talking about the GS and how much you'll love it, and you're in love with the GS.
Yeah, but everybody's got them now. Like literally everybody's getting them. So it's like, oh, am I going to have to move on to something else? Well, I don't want to. Anyway, mate, I know you said you had work. You had work after this. What time do you need to be clear?
10 is
10.
Is
right,
okay,
no problems. Yeah. That's all right. Right. Okay. Well, we should be through this in the next sort of 20 minutes, half hour, I think, if that's okay for you.
Right.
Beautiful. Right. Right. Next one. Bob Holly. Hello to you both. Other than planning the route and being prepared for weather and such, do you find it's better to have a rigid plan for each day of your rides or just general goals to keep you on track? Detailed plans or more of a go with the flow? Which is better?
So I think it depends on the trip, right? So I do quite 100%. A lot of trips now which are time constrained. So I tend to have, and this sounds really geeky, I tend to have a couple of different plans. I have my main plan, and then I have like my, okay, if something goes wrong plan. And I also have my like accelerated plans if I make better progress, because that then helps me rather than trying to replan on the road. I can think, right, actually, I've already got something set there that knows if I'm going to carry on and try and do an extra push, I've got this many miles to a camping site or whatever, to try and make my kind of progress. But I've actually found that on some of my kind of other trips that I've done where I've had longer, where we're talking about weeks rather than days, having those kind of general points that you want to get to, and then just going with the flow, because you do have some days, or at least I do, where I'm not as much feeling it in the mood, or, the weather is bad, or you might meet someone and it's kind of like, you might decide to actually, well, I'm going to, like when I was in Iceland, I got, I met a couple who were kind of riding around, and they do like a podcast, and they interviewed me for their podcast. So I took half a day out to go and speak to them, whereas I had planned to go somewhere else. So I think it's good to have that kind of flexibility in those longer trips. But if anyone does, like I do sometimes, where it's only a couple of days or a week, I think you need to be fairly rigid if you want to take a lot in and you want to do kind of big miles. But yeah, that's my geeky. I've got loads of spreadsheets with all these different, I've got a little kind of route like template performer, which tells me how long the miles are, how much I think the fuel will cost me, all this sort of good stuff. So
I've never gone that far, but yeah, I agree with you. I mean, you're in a sort of a fairly unique position in that you have a set time scale, a set time limit where you have to, you've got to be back by, which I appreciate a lot of people will, but you're also doing like challenges within that. So you've got something that you have to accomplish. There's a set distance that has to be done in order to accomplish that, and you have to get back. So for that, for sure, you need a plan, don't you? And you've got to be rigid with how you stick to it. But yeah, I totally agree with you. Like when time limits aren't as critical, there's just no better feeling than wandering on the road, is there? Just riding along and see where the trip takes you. Take that, turning on the right, turning on the left. You meet people that say, oh, come and do this. Okay, let's go and do it. And just see where the trip takes you. That is two very distinct different types of travel that you experience there, that you have. Yeah, but that one where you don't really have the time constraints, that is an amazing world to be in when you're fortunate enough to experience that for any length of time. It's great. Total freedom. Okay, next one. Justin, Geek and Cycle. Hello, Bruce and Gordon. I hope you're both well. I know Gordon is going with a BMW for his Alaska run. What does he expect with regards to differences between his trusty V-Strom and his rental BMW? What concerns does he have concerning riding a different bike? I know his experience on whatever machine will be amazing, and depending how long he is up that way, I'll try and meet him and show him some American hospitality. Is Justin... Am I right, Justin, that you are Alaska domiciled? You live in Alaska? I think he does. Justin, drop Gordon a line and say,
Absolutely.
I mean, you're going to be on a time constraint, as we've just spoken about. But you never know. It could be a good contact for you to have if you need anything when you're over there, for sure.
No, yeah, absolutely. Get in touch. And I think that's one of the things about solo travel is that being able to meet people, it makes it so much easier because you can just be a bit more flexible and have to be a little bit more kind of put yourself out there. And because I get to know when you're traveling alone, if there's no banter, it's good to stop and chat with some people and get a bit of rather than your own thoughts, No, it's a really interesting question, actually. And it's kind of like, I'm really excited. I'm really excited to ride the BMW. I think I'm very comfortable on the V-Strom and I really know it because I've done, several trips on different. So it's going to be good to be out of my kind of comfort zone. I'm expecting a steep learning curve with the technology and, making sure I know there's plenty of different things to kind of learn about how to set up the bike. And, I'm used to sort of like, if I need to change my suspension, I get off the V-Strom and I've got a little thing that I turn to make it harder or softer.
Button on the
exactly,
GS. Just
exactly.
A button.
But I am a little bit concerned about, so I'm a rider who, I really like to be able to get both my feet on the floor and feel comfortable, especially when you're doing stuff a bit off-roady, a bit gravelly as a kind of comfort thing. And just gives me a bit more confidence. And the BMW has got a higher seat. And like I'm 5'10", so I'm not really that tall. I'm not really sure how that's going to feel and kind of like putting my kind of, getting my sort of kit on there as well. So that's the thing I think I'm worried about is just how I'm going to be able to feel confident and comfortable, making sure I can get my feet down, or if I can't, working through a way, because I've always had bikes where I can comfortably get both feet down. So that's one of the big things for me. And it sounds like quite a little thing, but when you're sort of, I don't know if you've ever you're trying to pull off on a bit of kind of gravel and the bike's kind of slipping around and, this.
I've pulled off in all sorts of environments, Gordon. So I was going to stay with me. I'm going to think about you pulling yourself off when I'm in. So that's my anything to keep warm.
Exactly. That's my big concern. I think it's just it just feeling a bit different on the BMW. But I'm sure it'll be fine. Again, I've ridden quite a lot of bikes over the years. Actually, years ago, I said my dad's a big biker and I was visiting him in his place in France and he let me take out he had a BMW K1200 LT. It's the big, I don't think they make it anymore. It's now a 1600 sort of they do, but it looks a bit like a Goldwing and it's the same sort of weight as a Goldwing. And he let me take it out, which was could have been a big mistake because I was riding around these little French country roads. I had 500cc Kawasaki at the time and I was riding this big 1200. And I don't think I've ever told him this, so hopefully he's not going to listen. I basically, the back end slipped out on this corner and I thought I was going to drop it. And I was like, I didn't know what the hell I was going to do. But yeah, so I've ridden loads of different bikes, so I'm confident that I'll get used to it. But yeah, we'll just see how it goes. It's still a little bit nerve-wracking in those first. I don't know if you find this when you do some of the tests, that first couple of minutes when you're on a different bike, whether it's the power, whether it's the way it feels, the weight, the mirrors, getting used to it. It's kind of like a little bit like, ooh, this is a little bit different. Yeah,
you just have to. You've just got to puppy walk it. For the first sort of 5 minutes or so, just till you get used to how the thing handles, the weight of, how is the bike weighted? Is it low down? Is it high up? How does it react to body movement, to corners? You don't just get on it. You wouldn't jump on a bull and slap its nuts while you're holding onto the horn, would you? You'd sort of stroke it, make sure she's all right. He's all right to begin with and take it easy. You've got to be like that with a bike, haven't you? Till you know how the thing's going to react. Otherwise it will spit you off. You jump on and give it a fistful of throttle. There's lots of people out there. Electric bikes, prime example. I know TMF managed to drop the first electric bike he took out because he just wasn't prepared for the throttle reaction on the bike. It happens. You'll be fine, man. You'll be fine. I think at 5'10", you'll be fine. especially on the 750. You've ridden one, haven't you? Did you not say you rode one?
Yeah. So I took one out in Sunderland, but obviously I was kind of like just on the roads, and it was you only get an hour, so it's kind of like it's not loads you can kind of do within that time. So it'll be interesting. I think it's more the kind of the gravelly stuff, which is kind of like I'm still as much as I've done, plenty of off-road riding, and there's some really good kind of gravelly roads up in Northumberland near where I live. It's still every time when you haven't done it for a while, it's kind of that first bit of where you kind of build up your confidence. But it is, getting used to the fact you can let the back end sort of snake out a little bit without, and trying to figure out. Whereas if you're on a road and that happens, it's not really kind of toast really. So
the good thing about the BMWs is it's literally just one button. You just whack it into enduro and that's you're sorted. You can go and ride on the dirt and just let the bike do its thing. They're really, really easy to ride. Really easy to ride. You'll be fine. Dude, can I do another little sponsor shout out, please?
Go for it.
Awesome. Right, folks, sponsor shout outs. We're also sponsored by Innov. Now, Innov sponsor not only the podcast here on Brewtime, but they also sponsor the main channel over on TeapotOne. They produce motorcycle dashcam systems. There's the single C5 camera, which I reviewed quite a few years ago now. You can even wear that on your helmet if you like. And they do the dual camera system, the K series. So now there's the K3 and the K5. K3 is a 1080 system. K5's the sort of flagship, 4K at the front, 1080 at the rear. Both the K3 and K5, they've got remotes, they've got GPS, so it'll track your actual GPS location as well. There's a way of overlaying that over your footage, which I'm beginning to play with at the moment, but I'm not au fait with it. It's aftermarket software that you need, but I will be doing a video on it at some point. They've got microphones on them, external mics like lav mics, which will connect to the system, so you could vlog on it if you want. I've done a few of my track days and things like that. I'm actually vlogging using the K5 camera, K5 microphone. What else they've got? They've got a parking mode enabled on it. So if you activate parking mode, which is done through the app, even when you park the bike up, either in your garage or outside your house or outside the calf, wherever it is, and you're not with it, any movement in front of the cameras triggers the system and it'll automatically start recording, that minute, 3 minute, 5 minute, however much of a loop you've set in the app. It's a great bit of kit to have. I've had 2 people now contact me saying, I've ended up in court after, being involved in an accident. It was 100% not my fault, but the other party was saying it was, and it was going to go 50-50 until they saw the footage from my K3 or K5. And then that's totally gone in their favour and they get 100% claim in their favour. So it's definitely worth it. It's one of those things people go, 300-400 quid. It's a lot of money to be paying. It's not if you get involved in an accident and it's not your fault, because it'll pay for itself umpteen times over. So if you head to innov, innovv.co.uk, if you use the code TEAPOT, TEAPOT, then you'll get 5% off of any of the cameras that they have on the Innov website. And it also works for their Techologic cameras, which are here. It's the DC1 and the XV1. I've got these here. I'm working on videos on these as we speak. I'm very behind at the moment, but I have been doing some work on them. They're coming. So a massive thanks to Innov for their support. And lastly, it's me just giving a big shout out to all of you. So firstly, to all of you over on Patreon and the clan, literally, I couldn't do any of this without your support. You are basically what allow me to do this full time. So a huge thanks from the bottom of my heart for that. If you're interested, head to patreon.com/TeapotOne. Lots of things going on there. We have some meetups all around the UK. There'll be another one coming hopefully fairly soon, July, August time, I think. And another big thanks to all of you who listen to the podcast, who watch the podcast vids and who watch the TeapotOne vids. Without your support there, well, there would be no point in me being here, would there? So thank you so much for everything that you do. If you want to help any more in regards to the podcast, if you're listening on Spotify or if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, you can now rate the podcast and leave a review if you want. And that goes a long, long way to helping boost it up the charts. We were at one point top 3 in the UK, top 3 globally in this sector. I think at the moment we've dropped to about 20 odd because I had a few months off. So let's get it back up. Right, I'm back with you. Sorry about that, mate. Appreciate you letting me fly the flag for a while. Next one. Biker Hispania. Hi, Bruce and Gordon. Question 1. now that the world is opening up and Gordon is on his way to the USA, what's next? Is there another set of challenges in the pipeline? We kind of covered that, didn't we? Do you know what you're going to do next? Which one will be next?
So I think it'll probably be, just for ease, Sweden and Finland, because that's kind of quite easy to tick off. And if I can twist my wife's arm, I might well do that next year. The next one after that is probably going to be Canada, the Dempster Highway. But I haven't worked out the logistics for that yet. I'm probably going to have to get my own bike over there because none of the rental companies will let you take the bike up the Dempster for some reason. I've not got to the bottom of why that is. Whether it's
I've never heard of the Dempster.
So it's if you've ever watched Ice Road Truckers, they always used to go up the Dalton Highway, and then I think they did 1 or 2 series up the Dempster. It's a similar thing. It's in the back and beyond of northern Canada. It gets you way past the Arctic Circle up to some funny little towns. I'm sure it must be oil rigs, or there'll be something up there which they'll be panning for gold or something.
Yeah.
So that's. But I think I'm gonna have to work out, get my own bike over there. But when I was planning this pre-pandemic getting over to North America, Air Canada used to do this fly your bike scheme where I think it was like 800 or 900 quid each way, where you put your bike on the plane, you take it to the cargo depot at Manchester or London, and they fly it over, and basically you wheel it straight out without having to put it in a crate or anything like that. It was really simple, but they don't seem to. All the research I've done, they hadn't restarted that since the pandemic. So in order to get it over there, you have to go with one of the shipping companies, and there's a few really good ones out there, but it's just not that cheap, and it's as cheap as it would have been to that fly your bike kind of scheme, and it adds to the time. Like I said, I'm always time constrained, so I'm always thinking about how do I do things as quickly as possible, as I'm sure people like Sam Manicom and anyone else you guys who've ridden around the world, customs can be, you can lose weeks at customs if you don't do it the right way, right?
Certainly if you go by sea, it can take a long time at times. Air tends to speed it. It's generally done, same day. It's a lot easier. You must have heard of a company called Moto Freight. Have you heard of them?
Yes, yeah, I've heard of Moto Freight. Yeah.
One of the biggest and best out there. They're very good for stuff. Okay, question 2 from Biker España. Pancakes just for Shrove Tuesday or any day?
Any day.
Absolutely. 100%.
Any day I've got time to make them. I guess we're talking, because I'm a fan of the old little Scotch pancakes as well, to be honest. Sometimes just pick some of them up in the supermarket.
Bannocks.
I do love a pancake. And actually, so both my kids have got allergies, so they can't have eggs or milk. So we managed to find these vegan pancakes, which I thought were going to be horrific, as most sort of, allergy-friendly food is. They're actually pretty nice, to be honest, and found this sort of vegan, equivalent of Nutella to slap on them. Really tasty, yeah. So,
I was going to say, what's your top topping for a pancake?
As much chocolatey stuff as possible, and a bit of however much you can kind of fit in, So, what about you? What's your favourite?
I would say chocolate. I like chocolate and squeeze a bit of orange on it. Yeah, chocolate orange, nice. Perfect. Peanut butter. If you can put peanut butter on it without destroying the pancake, that can be nice, with some banana, peanut butter and banana on a pancake. Lush. I can't think why I'm like 20 and a half stone, Gordon. I can't figure it out. I've got absolutely no idea why that is. Right, next one. Pete English. Hi guys, hope you're both fit and well. Question: would you rather have £10,000 or 500,000 pennies? How much is 500,000 pennies? What's that? Is that 50 grand?
2 zeros off.
No.
It'd be
That's 5 grand.
Yeah.
5 grand, isn't it? 500,000 pennies.
Where would you keep 500,000 pennies then?
Is that right? Is it 5 grand?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. But I'm thinking, where would you, does he mean physically 500,000? Because that'd be
times, what is it, 0.01. I can't believe I'm doing this. What? Hang on, I haven't done that right. 10,000, 500,000. That's why. Frother. Yeah, 5 grand. It's 5 grand. Can't believe I had to do that. I've got a maths degree and I had to use a calculator. Jesus Christ. Yeah. No, it's not that. I wish it was. So £10,000 or 500,000 pennies, what would you rather have? Well, £10,000.
Quite a lot of fun with 500,000 pennies there. Keep you entertained. Keep the kids entertained. Count that.
Yeah, it would, but it's 10 grand. 10 grand will keep me entertained. 10 grand will keep the kids in. In fact, I'd have 5 grand to keep me entertained, and the kids can have 5 grand. There you go. There's 10 grand.
Exactly.
You have your 500,000 pennies, Gordon. You sit and count them. It's all right. I'll give my kids $5,000 and I'll have $5,000. Cheers. Next one, Brett Cunningham. My stepdaughter is autistic. Well done. Cheers, Brett. Thanks for your comment, mate. Last one from Patreon. Eddie Goldspink. Hello, Bruce and Gordon. A great charity and a great adventure. My question is, what memorable moments do you have from meeting any Indigenous peoples on your travels? Ooh. Okay, so locals. Well, you've got your what was he, an axe murderer?
Yeah, I've got the axe murderer. Although he wasn't Indigenous, he was German. He was a German hiding in the Norwegian forest. So that's probably why it wasn't. I mean, overall, I've had nothing but met some of the most fabulous people I think I've ever met when I've been on my travels. And lucky enough, in Norway, I was taken in by several different sort of biker kind of clubs, and take me in to like kind of stay with their families and stuff, and just being amazingly hospitable, especially when I'm just a stranger to them. It
is an overly friendly place, Norway, isn't it? It just struck me how friendly everybody was. Yeah, sorry, go on.
And people just plying you with beer and sort of local meats and all this sort of thing. So it's kind of like fantastic. And I had the same in Iceland. Actually, I met an Icelandic couple on the ferry going over, and they invited me to go and stay with them. They lived in Reykjavik, and again, they made me some kind of like Icelandic, like kind of like local food. I got plied with Icelandic beer. They gave me like nice kind of fresh bedroom and shower to use and all this sort of thing. And it's just it makes me feel a little bit bad though, because I don't know how I would kind of feel if I just met someone on a ferry and some random bikers and sort of just invited them back to my house. But I don't know. I don't know if it's a cultural thing, but it's just like I've had nothing but really nice encounters apart from the axe murder. Apart from that, with the kind of local people, and just so everyone's always so keen to kind of show off their country, and I think I'm just really pleased that you're there and kind of exploring it really. So, but I've built some really good friendships now, people who I kind of met on my trips, who now still follow on social media and speak to, and I'm looking forward to going back to Scandinavia, because actually I want to meet back up with some of the people in Norway again, just to go and say kind of hello and thanks for all their support and stuff like that.
Man, awesome. You get it everywhere, just about every country in the world. I have this chat umpteen times on the podcast, and just various adventure meets that I go to and do talks and stuff like that. Everyone around the world, we're all the same. Most of us are all the same. Everyone just wants to crack on with their daily life. They want to look after their family. They want to provide for their kids, give their kids as good a life as they possibly can, and they'll help. They will literally, they'll open up their lives to you if you need help, and they can help, And sometimes it can be a case of all they can do is wash your bike or give you like a bit of bread. It might just be that, but they'll do whatever they can to help. It's really quite a humbling thing, isn't it? Travel. And I think motorbikes are especially what's the word? It's probably even more obvious to you when you travel overland by bike, because you're living, breathing, smelling the world round about you, and you are quite what's the word I'm looking for? You're susceptible to things out there, aren't you? And I think people realize that. People realize that you're not in a cocoon. You're not sat in a bus. You're not sat in a car. You're what's the word I'm looking at?
I think you're quite exposed. I think that's what you mean. You sort of just like because you've only got a certain amount. This is what I find. You kind of like, I've got like a house full of stuff here, right? But when you go on your bike, you can only really take your tent, some clothes, and a few bits of food and your stove, and that's really about it. So you go with real. There's no kind of ego kind of comes with you, because you've left. If you've got a big house or you've got a big car, you've got a nice job. It doesn't really matter when you're on the road, because you're just a biker, and you kind of like just being there. And I think that's what kind of warms people. And actually, it's I think a lot of times when you speak to non-bikers, or when I speak to non-bikers, they think the biking community is made up of kind of like Hell's Angels, and everyone's like, and it's actually, and sometimes they look like that, right? They've got bald head and a big beard, right? But actually, they're the friendliest people. And this is what I found. Even some, you go to these sort of like kind of bike clubs, and everyone might look a little bit rough and ready, but they're just the loveliest people who all just, want to help out and share experiences and talk about bikes, which I could just do all day and all night. So it kind of like, you end up being in good company.
And from every conceivable background you can think of, isn't it? It's just this, as you said, you cannot judge a book by its cover, and it's never more evident than in the biking world most of the time, because you never know who you're speaking to. I think for me, it's such a shame what has happened with Russia has happened, because I've banged the drum about Russia since I was there, in that they are some of the nicest, most open, and maybe not open, but definitely some of the most friendly people I've met. They're very guarded initially, but if they do open themselves up to you, then you're literally your family. They will literally give you the shirt off their back, and if they've got a loaf of bread, they will rip it in two and give you half. They're that type of people, and it's horrible to see people's attitudes towards Russia. It was bad before because I knew what the real Russians were like. And now this has gone on, and it's almost like there's such vitriol towards Russia now. And it's not. It's a couple of dickheads up there who are in charge. It's not the people. Most of the people aren't like that. It's horrible. It's such a shame. Well, one of my most memorable things was in Russia, where I remember meeting a chap at a petrol station. I'd come away from Novosibirsk, so that's right bang in the middle of Russia, Novosibirsk, and I was heading east. So I'm going through Siberia. I was in the middle of nowhere, stopped for some fuel, and a chap came over to chat in Russian. I couldn't speak Russian, he couldn't speak English. We did the old, pointing, and I was showing him the map on the back of my lid and all this sort of stuff. And he sort of did the universal eat thing, like this, pointing at his belly. So I was like, point at the shop, the garage shop. I'd just pick, a bottle of juice up and chocolate bar, and that would do. Because when I was sort of living wild, I didn't really eat too much, believe it or not. Didn't eat too much during the day. I'd wait till I got to civilization and then, gorge myself. So he was like, no, like follow type of thing. So I followed him, and I literally ended up off of the main road into like some woods almost, in a little wooden shack, with a chimney and the smoke coming out of it, that sort of deal. And I followed him in, and his other half, his missus, is literally there at the fire cooking stuff. And she just sort of looked at me and smiled and looked at him. They said something, and the next thing, she's getting the bowl out with borscht, which is like their stew, and the vodka comes out, and there's a big thing in Russia with vodka. You get like these, oh God, what were they again? Are they like pickled vegetables? You get these like vinegary, pickly vegetable things like cabbage and onions and all sorts of stuff that come with it. And you're supposed to eat one of them and then skull of vodka. And, you eat another one and skull of vodka. So you get paralytic over there. But it's just part of being social. And I literally ended up sleeping the night in their little hut with this couple. And I often wondered to myself, is like, did he mean for me to come back to his house? And what the hell did his missus think when this stinking Scottish bald guy turns up in a minking leather like biking outfit? I must have stunk, because I'd been like wild for a while by this point. But it's stuck in my head, because as you said, if the shoe was on the other foot and I met somebody at a petrol station like here in Kent, I probably wouldn't. I wouldn't know because I've got my missus, but I'd like to think now, if I was single, I would have turned around and gone, yeah, come back to it, come back and stay, it's no problem. But I certainly wouldn't have done that before. No way.
Yeah. I'm just imagining the conversation in Russian where he's like, this bike has just followed me back and I don't know what to do. I was just trying to point him on to the McDonald's. And he's like,
I know. That's what I've been thinking. It was like, did he mean me to come back, or what was the crack there? But anyway, we had a great time. No idea what I said, no idea what he said, but we laughed. Anyway, right. There's literally one or two questions on the other platforms, mate. So that will bring us nicely to round about past. Okay, so we'll head across to Instagram. So that's at TeapotOne Insta. And as I said, I'll leave the links for Gordon's socials down below as well. First one, the XT Donkey. Been following him for years. He's done some great work. Cheers, pal. Next one, Joe Kid 49. Great to see Gordon back on the show. My question. It's suddenly announced by our world leaders that smooth road coverings, tarmac, concrete, etc., will be ripped up and replaced with loose gravel in a bid to cut speed. If each of you were given the option to save one road, which one would it be and why? bearing in mind you'd have to ride to and from it on the new surfaces from your current homes. Okay. Best road you've ever ridden and why?
So I definitely think the Trollstigen in Norway is one of the, and not just that bit of road, but when you go all the way up and the pass and then the road that takes you back down kind of over the plateau, it's just one of the best roads. I think the best road I've ever been on in terms of the scenery and the 11 hairpins or whatever it is. And it's just like, I really, really enjoyed that when I was coming back down through Norway in 2014. I'd love to go back and ride it again. So I think that would be, because I saw the question come through and I was thinking about this, albeit it would be a long way to go on dirt roads to get over there. But I think it'd be worth it by the time you got there. So that would be my pick for sure.
I think mine's changed. There used to be there was a road in Spain, sort of in the south of the Picos, which was always my favourite road. It's just mint. I loved it. But now I think it would be the GC 200, the Great Ocean Road over in Gran Canaria, because it's really long and it's really varied. It changes along the way, and I think that is possibly one of the greatest stretches of tarmac I've ever ridden on a bike. In fact, I think it would be good even in a car. And to get to it, I'd fly to the Canaries, and then it'd be, okay, as you said, you would lump the gravelly stuff just to go and ride that, because you'd have hours of fun.
Yeah.
Or I think it's called, is it the the T28 over in Tenerife? That's another stonk. There's so many good roads over in the Canaries. Nuts. Yes, I am sponsored by Canary Motor Tours, but they are genuinely fantastic roads. Right, okay. The next ones, we'll head across to Facebook. So it's facebook.com/TeapotOne. John Tinkler. Good evening, gents. I hope you're all well and enjoying life. All good, thank you, man. Just wanted to wish Gordon safe travels on his epic trip, and we'll be rooting for you all the way. All the best, and thanks for these great podcasts, Bruce. Pleasure, man. Good. Cheers, thank you. I take it, are you going to be updating your socials along the way?
Yes, yeah. So I'm going to be really going for it in terms of trying to share as much content as I can on the way. Obviously, from a time zone point of view, I'm only behind most of the UK, where a lot of the people follow me from. But I tried when I did my Scotland Four Corners ride last summer, which was like, I did 800 miles in 23 hours and 40 minutes or something it was in the end. I got really kind of like quite slick at updating quickly and getting some content out there because it was such a short ride. And I got a lot of really good feedback in terms of people like kind of getting those and, using Instagram stories and all this sort of thing. So I'm definitely going to be sharing a load of content when I'm over there, and just my phone bill is going to take a hit, but it'll be worth it to kind of share all the nice views and things.
Honestly, mate, if I don't know if you can get it set up beforehand, but the way I found when I was doing a big trip is get my phone unblocked before I went, and then literally when you landed in a new country, you just pick up a local SIM card, whack it in there. The States, back in 2013-14, you couldn't do that, but you must be able to do it now. You must be able to get like a local SIM. I don't know if anyone's out there, if anyone can advise Gordon on that, because your phone bill will be enormous. Yeah. If you're using a UK SIM over there for the week, that will be big.
Yeah, if anyone's got any tips about how I make that cheaper, I'd definitely take those on board, because that'd be helpful.
And they didn't at the time, but they might do pay as you go now. So you might be able to just get a cheap phone when you land there. It's going to be less than what your phone bill would be if but then will it have? Yeah, would it have the smartphone? Yeah, it would have features.
Something I have to do.
Well, if you want, I can put a little plea out on my socials as well, if you want, and see.
Yeah, that would be helpful, because there'll be someone I've tried to research this kind of thing, and it's always difficult, but there'll be someone who's in the know who'll probably have either done it recently or have experience in the industry, or say, actually, this is the way that you do it, and you make it cost effective.
I'll tell you what. Hang on. Sorry, mate. I'll be 2 tickies. Justin, Geek and Cycle, you live over there, mate. That might be some way you could really help Gordon. If you wouldn't mind either messaging me or Gordon and just let us know what options are available over there for, is it possible for somebody to like land in the States? Where's it you're landing? Anchorage?
Anchorage, yeah.
Yeah. Is it possible to just land there, pick up a local SIM card and whack it in like any phone, and use it. It never used to be, but I wonder if it is now. Might be able to sort something out. Hopefully, you never know. You never know. That's what this is all about, Gordon. This is what they see. Contacts. Last one, the Inspired Rider. Firstly, wishing Gordon every success and safe travels with the Alaska ride. Hope you absolutely smash your fundraising target, buddy. Now you've temporarily converted to almost the best bike in the world. One, what do you see as your top challenge on the journey? Bike, gear, conditions, wildlife, and how have you prepared for it?
So I think, we covered this a little bit earlier, but definitely the wildlife is the big thing. And like I've taken quite a lot of expert advice, over the internet in terms of looking into how do you properly prepare to kind of deal with that and making sure I'm doing safe camping, all that kind of good thing. But I think that's going to be the biggie. But also, the thing we haven't touched on is the weather, right? So yes, it's kind of like going to be June, but also, the Arctic is. I've been fairly lucky. When I went to Norway, I got some really dry weather, which is very rare for Norway. When I went to Iceland, I had a really tough time with the wind. There's actually 2 bikers got blown off their bikes. It was that windy. Really? It was really, really. I mean, I've got a video on my YouTube of when I was riding. I think it was the first day I got to Iceland, and I don't know how I didn't fall off the bike because I was just getting battered across the road. So the weather can get really difficult up there. And my buddy over in Alaska, Ethan, he sent me a video last night of it was snowing yesterday in Anchorage. In the weather, even in June, July, the weather can turn. All of a sudden in terms of being really bad, whether it's snow, whether it's wind, whether it's rain. And when you're up there and exposed, that's another thing. And, fingers crossed, I'll get another, fairly sort of okay kind of crossing, but you never know, especially the mountain ranges that you go over. It can be sunny on one side and you go up and over and come over the other side and it can be snowing or torrential rain or, really bad winds. So that's going to be another kind of tricky thing, especially on the kind of gravel roads,
You'll do it, mate. You'll do it. Question 2. Being as you and Bruce are seasoned travellers, did you know Bruce travelled around the world? Cheers, thanks. What would each of you say is the top luxury item you take with you that makes life a little more pleasurable? And is it A, on the bike, or B, around camp? Okay, so the top luxury item for the bike and also for around camp, 2 different ones.
So I think now the luxury item for the places that I go where it's cold is my heated vest. Oh my God, it's like the best thing. So it's just
is that the case one?
Case one, yeah, it is. Yeah,
it is. The vest is astonishing. I love it.
I was riding with my mate Ollie just a couple of weeks ago, and we were riding around Northumberland, and it was really chilly. And I got off the bike, and I was like, "You're right, mate." He's like, "Oh, it's a bit chilly, isn't it?" I was like, "Wouldn't know. I've had my heated vest on." But that is definitely it only cost me like £100, but especially living in the north of England and going to these cold places, I don't know how I survived for so long. Like I've never done an Arctic trip with one, and I can't wait to take it with me and plug it in so it can be nice and toasty. But that is an absolute bike luxury. I think this isn't quite something I take with me, but something I always kind of do as a luxury on my trips is when I've got my goal in mind, whether it's getting to Nordkapp or finishing the Iron Butt or whatever it might be, I always treat myself with a beer and a pizza normally, wherever the closest place I can find a pizza. And that's sort of like my kind of like, I kind of tend to try and eat fairly kind of sensibly as I go up to these different rides. But I still remember when I've been to Nordkapp, I rode back to Alta, which is kind of the biggest town, which is close to it, which is still another like 5 or 6 hours ride down from Nordkapp. And I got this pizza from this little sort of like dirty pizza shop. And it was like, I think I did the exchange. It was like £35. Oh God, it was worth it though. It was worth it for this sort of like 10-inch, just like greasy pizza and a nice beer as a sort of like a treat for kind of achieving my goals. So I always keep those back until I've actually, finished whatever the challenge is.
Did you stay at a campsite in Alta next to a big lake?
Yeah, I think it's the only campsite.
Is it the only one?
Yeah.
I just remember it was astonishing. It was beautiful. It was shut when I was there, but there were 2 British chaps, old boys in there, who were they'd cycled from Gibraltar to Nordkapp, and they were on their way back, and they were in this campsite, and it was just like an honesty box. You just paid your money and took your pitch, and that was it. And they kept like the laundry facilities and everything running. There's nobody there, but they were there for you to use if you wanted. It was just, I just remember I'd been up to Nordkapp, and it was freezing when I was up there, and yet this place on the banks of this lake in the evening with the sun coming down, setting, it was just gorgeous.
Oh no, it's
beautiful.
Beautiful with how just sort of quiet and picturesque, and you've got all the kind of mountains in the background.
Yeah.
I met a couple of Dutch guys up there actually, and I remember I was looking through my photos recently, and I took a photo with them for some reason, and I don't know, they were just two other bikers. They were in Africa. They were sharing an Africa Twin actually, and I always wondered whatever happened, because they were heading back. They were heading up to Norway as I was kind of coming back the other way. But we had this kind of they had a bit of English as the Dutch tended, but it was still a fairly kind of broken conversation. But yeah, I've got this photo of two random Dutch guys just sitting on my computer, which whether I'll ever speak to them again, I don't know.
Brilliant. Yeah, you do though, don't you? You just meet random. I've had people who have actually I met on my trip, and then we kept in touch off and on through various different social media messages. And then I'll get a message from them going, either I'm coming to the UK or I'm in the UK. Do you fancy meeting up? And it's just like, well, yeah, definitely do it. So I've had people turn up at the house, and come and spend the night here. It's been great.
I had another one with the guy the first time I tried to get to Nordkapp in 2011 when I crashed my bike in Sweden. I was staying in a place in southwest Sweden near Malmo. There's a campsite, and there's this French guy who I'd seen on the motorway, and we ended up chatting. He didn't really have much English, and my French is very sort of elementary. And we had a nice little chat and stuff, and then I saw him again on the road the next day. Again, never thought anything of it. And then it must have been 2018. I got a little message on Facebook, and it's like, "Hi, this is Philippe. You probably don't remember me, but we were at a campsite together in Sweden, and I've been following your stuff, and I just wanted to say hello." And I was like, "Oh, hello, fantastic!" And now Facebook friends, and the usual sort of story. It's kind of like, but yeah, just a chance meeting. And I wasn't the Arctic rider back then. I didn't really sort of establish that until a couple of years later. So he must have found me and recognized my face or the bike or whatever. But yeah, just one of those kind of it's amazing what the internet can do now to kind of pull you together with people.
Absolutely, innit? There's many horrible parts of the internet, but there's some amazing parts of it as well.
Definitely.
Right, for me, I'll try and be as quick as I can. On the bike, best luxury on the bike. Do you know what? It definitely is. It's comms. It's having comms now. So for me, the Cardo, the Pack Top Bold, I can listen to music. I can listen to a podcast. I can be on the phone. I can have my sat nav guidance come through that if I want. It's just something different there. So for me, that's a luxury on the bike. Around the camp, I'm a very, very, I used to be a very basic camper. It was tent and sleeping bag. That was it. Now I've got an inflatable mat, which I use, which does help to keep you a little bit warmer. But the biggest thing for me for camping now is I bought one of those, Helinox chairs, insanely expensive chairs that fold down into this tiny little package. But having this lovely chair that you can just chill on is awesome, right? You don't need to sit on the ground. You're not with a bad back. You're sat in a nice chair. So that for me. And he also says, last one, finally, on top of adventure, serious business of raising awareness and fundraising. Finally, on top of the adventure, serious business of raising awareness and fundraising for a truly awesome cause. How worried is Gordon about losing our GS-inspired caffeinated side bet? What was that? Yeah,
so this is Stan, the inspired rider. He's going up to Nordkapp this summer. He's been planning it for a couple of years. He had a pretty bad year last year with COVID and things. And we sort of got a bet to see who can get the most northern cup of coffee this year. And I think if there's a coffee shop at Deadhorse, I've won then. As long as it's open. There we go, Stan.
Well, this is it. It's not like you're going to be up there for a day or two, is it? It sounds like you're getting up there, getting a picture and going. So,
get espresso, head back down.
But there's stores and stuff there. Yeah. What a store. Yeah.
So yeah, that's who can get the most northern cup of coffee. So we'll see this year who wins that bet.
You're going to have to go some to beat Deadhorse. That's all I'm saying. Gordon, awesome, mate. That's all the questions. I've taken you about 10 minutes over there. I do apologise. Dude, before we call it quits, any shout outs you want to give? Floor is yours.
Hey, thanks very much. Hey, I mean, there's so many people who've kind of supported me over the years, and it's just fantastic. And I want to say everyone who I've got on Facebook or who's commented on my YouTube videos and all that sort of stuff, it makes a massive amount of difference, not only to me, but also the profile we can share for the charity. So just want to say thanks to everyone who does all those sorts of things. It really does make a difference. And I know that not everyone can afford to donate and all that sort of thing. And there's, I try and make sure there's not any pressure, but if you can, go a long way to support the charities. And if you can't, and you just want to support by liking and sharing and watching and all that good stuff, then that means just as much as well. So thanks to everyone, and also for all the lovely questions and the fact that there seems to be a few folk out there who kind of know what I'm doing as well. It's really humbling and really helpful to keep me motivated, as we talked about before. So thanks so much. And thanks to you, Bruce, for giving me this platform. And also, I always see whenever you share anything on your socials, I see the likes on my page go up, I see my YouTube videos go up, and also the donations. So it makes a difference, you know. So anyone who's got a platform, that sharing, it really does help as well. So thank you.
My absolute pleasure, mate. You know, I think it's awesome what you're doing, and it epitomizes my whole live your life thing. And anything I can do to help, I'll do. Folks, check out the links down below. Come on, even a $5. Do you know what I mean? If we all, there's like, I think there's 10 to 15,000 people listen to these podcasts every month. So, you know, if we all give, even if you all gave £1, you know, that's 15 grand that we're going to raise. But, you know, £5, what's £5 to us these days? It's a coffee. It's not even a coffee and a cake anymore. It's a coffee and a something. So if you can, hit that link. Remember and do the gift aid, because that is something we get back from the government. So, yeah, do help however you can. Please do. Mate, absolute pleasure. I cannot wait to follow it. I wish you the very best. You're going to smash it. You're going to do it. And yeah, roll on. Let's see them. Can't wait to see the future adventures coming.
Thank you.
Right, folks, what can I say? Keep doing your thing. I've got to let Gordon go now, so I'll speed this up. Keep doing your thing. Look after those that you love. Get on out there whenever you can. But most importantly, live your life. Ooh-ha! Dude, awesome. Right, let me stop that.